third grade, back to Charlotte's Web. We're on chapter 13 already. Good progress. That's what it's called. Far into the night, while the other creatures slept, Charlotte worked on her web. First, she ripped out a few of the orb lines near the center. She left the radial lines alone, as they were needed for support. As she worked, her 8 legs were a great help to her. So were her teeth. She loved to weave, and she was an expert at it. She was finished ripping things out, and her web looked something like this. A spider can produce several kinds of thread. She used a dry, tough thread for the foundation lines, and she uses a sticky thread for snare lines, the ones that catch hold of the insects. Charlotte decided to use her dry thread for writing a new message. If I write the word terrific with sticky thread, she thought, every bug that comes along will get stuck in it and spoil the effect. Now, let's see. The first letter is T. Charlotte climbed to a point at the top left-hand side of her web. Swinging her spinsters into position, she attached her thread and then dropped it down. As she dropped, her spinning tubes went into action and she let out the thread. At the bottom, she attached the thread. This formed the upright part of the T. Charlotte was not satisfied, however. She climbed up and made another attachment right next to the first. Then she carried the line down so that she had a double line instead of a single line. This will show up better if I make the whole thing with double lines. She climbed back, moved over about an inch to the left, touched her spinners to the web, and then carried a line across to the right, forming the top of the T. She repeated this, making it double. Her 8 legs were very busy helping. Now for E. Charlotte got so interested in her work, she began to talk to herself as though to cheer herself on. If you had been sitting quietly in the barn cellar that evening, you would have heard something like this. Now for the R. Up we go. Attach, descend, payout line. Woo, attach, good. Up you go. Repeat, attach, descend, payout line. Whoa, girl. Steady now. Attach, climb, attach. Over to the right. Payout line, attach. Now right down and swing around. Now to the left. Attach, climb, repeat. Okay. Easy. Keep those lines together. Now, then, out and down, and repeat the R. Pay out the line. Whoa, attach, ascend, repeat. Good girl. And so, talking to herself, the spider worked at her difficult task. When it was completed, she felt hungry. She ate a small bug that she had been saving. Then she slept. Next morning, Wilbur arose and stood beneath the web. He breathed in the morning air into his lungs. Drops of dew catching the sun made the web stand out clearly. When Lurvy arrived with breakfast, there was the handsome pig, and over him, woven neatly in black letters, was the word terrific. Another miracle. Lurvy rushed to Mr. Zuckerman, and Mr. Zuckerman rushed to Mrs. Zuckerman, and Mrs. Zuckerman ran to the phone to call the Airbleys. The Airbleys climbed into their truck and hurried over. There you go. Everybody stood at the pig pen and stared at the web and read the word over and over while Wilbur, who really felt terrific, stood quietly swelling out his chest and swinging his snout from side to side. Terrific, breathed Zuckerman in joyful admiration. Edith, you better phone the reporter on the Weekly Chronicle and tell him what has happened. He will want to know about this. He may want to bring a photographer. There isn't a pig in the whole state that is as terrific as our pig. The news spread. People who had journeyed to see Wilbur when he was some pig came back again to see now that he was terrific. That afternoon, when Mr. Zuckerman went to milk the cows and clean out the tie-ups, he was still thinking about the wondrous pig he owned. Lurvy, he called. There is to be no more cow manure thrown down in the pig pen. I have a terrific pig. I want the pig to have clean, bright straw every day for his bedding. Understand? Yes, sir, said Lurvy. Furthermore, said Mr. Zuckerman, if you want to start building a crate for Wilbur, I've decided to take the pig to the county fair on the 6th of September. Make the crate large and paint it green with gold letters. What will the letters say? Asked Lurvy. They should say Zuckerman's famous pig. Lurvy picked up a pitchfork and walked away to get some clean straw. Having such an important pig was going to mean plenty of extra work, and he could see that. Below the apple orchard at the end of the path was the dump where Mr. Zuckerman threw all sorts of trash and stuff that nobody wanted anymore. Here, in a small clearing hidden by young alders and wild raspberry bushes, was an astonishing pile of old bottles and empty cans, dirty rags, and bits of metal and broken bottles, broken hinges, broken springs, and dead batteries, last month's old magazines and old discarded dish mops, tattered overalls and rusty spikes, a leaky pail, forgotten stoppers, and useless all kinds of junk, including the wrong size crank for a broken ice cream freezer. Templeton knew the dump and liked it. There were good hiding places there, especially cover for a rat. There was usually a tin can with food still clinging to the inside. Templeton was down there now rummaging around. When he returned to the barn, he carried in his mouth was an advertisement he had torn from a completed magazine. "How's this?" he asked, showing the ad to Charlotte. "It says crunchy, crunchy. Would be a good word for you to write in your web." "Just the wrong idea," replied Charlotte. "Couldn't be worse. We don't want old Zuckerman to think Wilbur is crunchy. He might start thinking about crisp, crunchy bacon and tasty ham. It would put ideas into his head. We must advertise Wilbur's noble qualities, not his tastiness. Go get another word, please, Templeton." The rat looked disgusted, but he sneaked away to the dump and was back in a while with a strip of cotton cloth. "How's this?" he asked. It was a label torn off an old shirt. Charlotte examined the label. It said pre-shrunk. "I'm sorry, Templeton," she said, "but pre-shrunk is out of the question. We want Zuckerman to think of Wilbur in nicely filled out, not all shrunk up. I'll have to ask you to try again." "What do you think I am, a messenger boy?" grumbled the rat. "I'm not going to spend all my time chasing down to the dump for advertising material." "Just once more, please," said Charlotte. "I'll tell you what I'll do," said Templeton. "I know where there's a package of soap flakes in the woodshed. It has writing on it. I'll bring you a piece of that package." He climbed the rope and hung it on the wall, disappeared through the hole in the ceiling. When he came back, he had a strip of blue and white cardboard in his teeth. "There," he said triumphantly. "How's that?" Charlotte read the works. "With new radiant action." "What does it mean?" asked Charlotte, who had never seen soap flakes in her life. "How should I know?" said Templeton. "You asked for the words and I brought them. I suppose the next thing you'll want is for me to fetch a dictionary." Together they studied the soap ad. "With new radiant action," repeated Charlotte slowly. "Wilbur," she called. Wilbur, who was asleep in the straw, jumped up and around and commanded, to Charlotte's command, "I want to see you in action to see if you are radiant." Wilbur raced to the end of his yard. "Now back again, faster," said Charlotte. Wilbur galloped. His skin shone, his tail a fine, tight curl. "Jump into the air," said Charlotte. Wilbur jumped as high as he could. "Keep your knees straight and touch the ground with your ears," called Charlotte. Wilbur obeyed. "Do a back flip and a half twist in it," cried Charlotte. Wilbur went over backwards, writhing and twisting as he went. "Okay, Wilbur," said Charlotte. "You can go back to sleep." "Okay, Templeton, the soap ad will do, I guess. I'm not sure Wilbur's action is exactly radiant, but it's interesting." "Actually," said Wilbur, "I feel radiant." "Do you?" said Charlotte, looking at him with affection. "Well, you're a good little pig, and radiant you shall be. In this thing pretty deep now, I might as well go the limit." Tired from his romp, Wilbur lay down on the clean straw. He closed his eyes. The straw was scratchy, now as uncomfortable as cow manure, not as uncomfortable as cow manure, which was always delightfully soft to lie in. So he pushed the straw to one side and stretched out into the manure. Wilbur sighed. It had been a busy day, his first day of being terrific. Dozens of people had visited his yard during the afternoon, and now he had to stand and pose looking as terrific as he could. Now he was tired. Fern arrived and seated herself quietly on her stool in the corner. "Tell me a story, Charlotte," said Wilbur as he lay waiting for sleep to come. "Tell me a story." So Charlotte thought, although she too was tired, what Wilbur wanted. "Once upon a time," she began, "I had a beautiful cousin who managed to build her web across a small stream. One day, a tiny fish leapt into the air and got tangled in my web. My cousin was very much surprised, of course. The fish that was tangled began thrashing wildly. My cousin hardly dared tackle it, but she did. She swooped down and threw great masses of wrapping material and found the fish and fought bravely to capture it. Did she succeed? Asked Wilbur. It was never to be forgotten battle, said Charlotte. There was a fish, caught only by one fin, and its tail wildly thrashing and shining in the sun. There was a web shaking dangerously under the light of the fish. How much did the fish weigh? Asked Wilbur eagerly. I don't know, said Charlotte. There was my cousin slipping in, dodging out, beaten mercilessly over the head with this wild thrashing fish, dancing in and out, throwing her threads and fighting hard. First she threw around a left to the tail, then the tail slashed back. Then a left to the tail and a right to the midsection. The fish lashed back. Then she dodged to one side and threw a right and another right to the fin. Then a hard left while the web swayed and stretched. Well, then what happened? Nothing, said Charlotte. The fish lost the fight. My cousin wrapped it so tight it couldn't budge. Then what happened? Asked Wilbur. Nothing, said Charlotte. My cousin kept the fish for a while, and then, when she got good and ready, she ate it. Tell me another story, begged Wilbur. So Charlotte told him about her cousin of hers, who had done something else. It was a balloonist, said Charlotte. My cousin used to stand on her head, let in enough thread to form a balloon. Then she'd let go, be lifted into the air, and carried upward in the warm wind. Is that true? Asked Wilbur, or are you just making it up? It's true, replied Charlotte. I have some very remarkable cousins. And now, Wilbur, it's time for you to go to sleep. Sing something, begged Wilbur, closing his eyes. So Charlotte sang a lullaby while crickets chirped into the grass and the barn grew dark. This was the song she sang. Sleep, sleep, my love, my only, deep, deep in the dung and the dark. Do not be afraid and be lonely. This is the hour when frogs and thrushes praise the word from the woods and rushes. Rest from my care, my one and only, deep in the dung and dark. But Wilbur was already asleep when the song ended. Fern got up and went home. All right, guys, that's our chapter 13. I miss you guys. It was good to see you. I'll see you for the next chapter. Talk to you soon. Bye.